Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Camilo Esteves with Drone Nerds, and today I'm with Mike Sember, South Florida firefighter and paramedic. Mike, welcome to Drone Nerds.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
And today we're going to talk about the different steps to implement a successful drone program for a fire department. So Mike, talk to us a little bit about determining the organization needs.
So I think that's the very first step in starting a fire department program is determining what you are actually going to be using the drone for. And that's going to vary based on the size of your fire department and where in the country you are. So as we talked earlier, structure fires, hazmat incidents, wildland fires, are you going to be basically using it for post-incident analysis or maybe search and rescue? Okay. So getting together with your department or your crew and starting the drone program, what are you most likely going to be using the drones for? I think that's the very first step in starting the program, and once you have that figured out, you can move forward.
And then the next step you would say is identifying how much money you can spend, so budgets?
Correct. So that's a great question. Budget is a very top priority in starting the drone program. Once you determine your organization needs and what you're actually going to need to start the program as far as what types of drones or what you're going to be using them for, you need to apply for the budget and actually get the money. And that can vary based on, again, what type of place in the country you are or what size fire department. So that may come internally from your fire department. You may already have money in a budget, or you may get it from the community, or you may get it from grants. So once you have that money and you determine what you want to use the money for, you can get your program off and rolling.
And then when it comes to laws and regulations, how does that play or roll into the whole implementing of that drone program?
Right, so your laws and regulations, you're going to have your FAA laws, and you're also going to have regulations, and that kind of ties in with training and starting your program. You're going to want to have every pilot Part 107 certified, and then you're going to need to go around your city or municipality and what they require to start the drone program. So starting the right paperwork and getting the COAs all situated, that can take up to several months, but you're going to need to figure out with your city and actually get with the FAA and maybe some third-party resources on getting the right paperwork started.
So once we have the budget, once we have identified the most important thing, which are the department needs, once we've reviewed local laws and go to training, what's next?
Well, that's going to be selecting and purchasing your drone equipment. And again, different fire departments are going to want to have different drones for different situations. So you need to get together with your administration or your team and figure out what are we going to use the drones for. And that's going to determine what type of drones we want to buy, how many drones we want to buy. And that's going to be for specific situations. And every department across the country is going to have drones for different situations.
And how about software solutions, and more so on the data encryption, security, safety of that data?
That's a great question. So some states are going to require certain data encryption requirements, and you're going to need to know the requirements of your state and start the paperwork early. The paperwork sometimes can take 3 to 6 months. You're dealing with the FAA, you're dealing with certain COAs for certain municipalities, and you're going to need to start that process. And if you're smart in starting the program, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone on selecting and purchasing your drone and knocking out the requirements for paperwork.
Okay, Mike, so once we have budgets, we figure it out what's the department needs, training, staffing, how does that work?
So staffing and training come one after another, but staffing is actually a big part in starting the drone program, and staffing is going to be determined on what your department basically needs. Are you a small fire department, or are you a very big fire department, and where are you going to want to start with the drone program? I've seen departments with 1 drone operator, and I've seen fire departments with several drone operators. Are they going to want to staff part-time or full-time? peak hour times for drone operators, maybe during the day, or you're going to want to have drone operators come in on call. But staffing is going to be basically also tying in with budget a little bit.
Right.
What kind of budget do you have to support your staffing? Once you determine as an organization with your administration and your team members how much staffing you have, then you can go on to the next step, and that's going to play in part with training.
Okay, and then in terms of training, is it ongoing training? Is there any certification, like the Part 107 that they should have?
Right, so when you're starting the drone program, you're going to want to have all the pilots with your basic Part 107, and because that's going to release some of the liability. Remember, liability falls on the individual pilot. So once you get the training and staffing, you're going to want to do ongoing training, and that's going to be different depending on where you are. I've seen fire departments across the country that actually do training, maybe flying a certain amount of hours per week or a certain amount of hours per month. I've also seen it where they're doing team training and putting themselves in certain situations and doing a lot of aggressive training is what we would call it. So training is definitely a big part in starting the program, because these are very expensive pieces of equipment, and you're going to want to protect this investment that you had.
And then from that training, I guess, is how the department develops their standard operating procedures, correct?
Right, so once you have the training and the staffing and you have your drone and you have the budget, hopefully an ongoing budget every year, you're going to want to set up basically standard operating procedures or set guidelines on how you want to operate your drone program. It's basically a set of rules to follow, and these rules can change and you will get better as time goes, but having your SOPs is an important part.
And then what's the last step when it comes to implementing successfully a drone program?
Well, the last step would probably be fleet management. And you have a very expensive investment, and could be up multiple drones that you started with. So you're going to want to do fleet management. Are you going to have somebody dedicated for repairs or getting your drones back in service or replacement parts? Or are you going to want to send the drones to a third-party reputable source to actually do the repairs and have a quick turnaround time if something goes wrong? So if your drone fails for some reason or crashes for some reason, how quick is the turnaround time for that a company can get back the drone to you to be put back in service? So fleet management is a big thing, and where are you storing the drones, and who's taking care of the drones, and how quickly are you getting replacement parts for the drones? So fleet management is a very important process in starting the drone program, and it's probably one of the last steps once you got the program going.
Right, and then Mike, just to wrap this up, any quick tips you can provide our audience when it comes to implementing these drone programs?
That's a great question. So I think my number one tip when implementing a drone program is actually getting maybe the community or even your own fire department to buy in the program. Drones have been around for a little time now, but not for a long time. And again, we discussed earlier, you're not abandoning fire department techniques that have been used for several years, but if they're used correctly, it is a major asset for fireground operations. So getting the community to see some examples and getting your staff or your department seeing some examples of how drones are used is a huge plus, and I think that's the number one tip, because if you can get a buy-in, then that will definitely jumpstart the program and get it going.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Mike, thank you so much for being here at the Droners headquarters.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem. And remember, guys, if you have any questions, put those questions in the comments below, or feel free to reach out at experts@dronerds.com. Once again, Mike, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Have a great day.
See you guys.